The real reason Pixar is struggling isn't bad animation, it's not talent, and it's definitely not because they forgot how to tell stories. That's the easy explanation, and easy explanations are usually wrong. There was a time when seeing Pixar on a screen felt like an event, like a promise. You didn't know exactly what you were about to watch, but you knew one thing. You were probably going to feel something you weren't ready for. Toy Story made toys anxious about mortality. Up emotionally wrecked people in under 5 minutes. Inside Out turned depression into a character and somehow made it comforting. That wasn't luck, that was intention. And now a new Pixar movie drops and the reaction is closer to, oh, that's out already? That shift matters more than any box office number, because Pixar didn't suddenly lose skill. The animation is still insane, the lighting is still showing off, the artists are still some of the best in the industry. So if the craft is there, what's missing? Pixar stopped being a studio that took risks and slowly became a studio that protects itself. Early Pixar movies felt dangerous, in a good way. They were built on ideas that could have failed hard. A trash compacting robot falling in love, a rat cooking food, a movie where the hero is literally just sad. No safety net, no cinematic universe waiting in the background. Now the questions are different. Does this fit the brand? Can this be extended? Will this work globally? Is this too weird? And once you start asking those questions, stories change. They soften, they explain themselves more, they stop trusting silence. Pixar used to trust the audience to keep up, to sit with uncomfortable emotions, to feel confused for a second. Modern Pixar often rushes to reassure you, just in case, just to be safe. There's also the streaming factor, and yeah, it matters. Pixar films were designed for theaters, for collective silence, for that moment when nobody in the room knows whether to laugh or cry. Then some of their most personal movies just appeared on Disney+. No build-up, no shared experience. You watch Soul on a couch with your phone nearby. That changes how stories land. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Pixar isn't making bad movies. They're making polite ones. Polite movies don't linger. Polite movies don't argue with you. Polite movies don't sit in your chest afterward. Older Pixar felt like it was made by people who needed to tell a story. Newer Pixar sometimes feels like it was made because a slot needed filling. That's not an insult. That's a system problem. Creativity thrives on friction, on disagreement, on someone in a room saying, I know this is risky, but hear me out. When everything has to align, stories stop surprising you. Pixar doesn't need to go backwards. It doesn't need sequels to sequels to sequels. It doesn't need louder jokes or faster pacing. It needs courage again, the kind that lets a movie be quiet, or strange, or emotionally inconvenient. Because Pixar was never special for being perfect. It was special for being honest, even when that honesty hurt a little. And the moment Pixar remembers that, you won't have to convince people to care. They'll feel it. Great animation impresses you. Great stories stay with you. And here's the part people usually dance around. Pixar didn't just lose risk, it lost friction. Early Pixar movies felt like they came out of arguments, like someone in the room was uncomfortable and the movie survived anyway. Those films carried scars. They weren't sanded down. Now everything feels negotiated. You can sense the meetings, you can sense the revisions, you can sense the invisible checklist hovering over every emotional beat. Not because the filmmakers don't care, but because the system doesn't allow recklessness anymore. Pixar used to trust that a single strong idea could carry an entire film. Now ideas arrive with backup plans. And once a story has a backup plan, it stops committing. That's why so many modern Pixar movies feel emotionally correct but emotionally distant. They say the right things, they hit the right notes, but they don't surprise you. You understand them immediately, and that's the problem. The old films didn't explain themselves. They trusted silence. They trusted implication. They trusted that kids are smarter than we think and adults are more fragile than we admit. Modern Pixar often plays defense, just in case someone doesn't get it, just in case someone takes it the wrong way, just in case. And creativity doesn't breathe under just in case. Another thing nobody wants to say out loud, Pixar used to be driven by directors with something personal on the line. Now it's often driven by teams trying to protect a legacy. That flips the energy completely. When you're building a legacy, you avoid mistakes. When you're chasing a story, you risk them. And audiences can feel that difference instantly, even if they can't explain it. They don't say, this lacks narrative risk. They say, yeah, it was fine. Fine is lethal, because fine doesn't create rewatchability. Fine doesn't become someone's favorite movie. Fine doesn't shape a generation. Pixar shaped people. It shaped how kids understood loss, how adults processed regret, how families talked about emotions they didn't have words for. That didn't happen because the movies were clean. It happened because they were brave enough to be specific. Specific pain, specific joy, specific fear. And here's the hopeful part, because there is one. Pixar isn't broken, it's paused. The talent is still there, the imagination is still there. The hunger just needs permission to come back. Permission to be weird again. Permission to let a moment breathe. Permission to make a movie that doesn't immediately explain itself in a trailer. Pixar doesn't need to chase trends. It doesn't need louder jokes or safer arcs. It needs to trust that honesty, real honesty still works. Because when Pixar stops trying to reassure everyone and starts challenging them again, people won't ask if the studio is back. They'll feel it. Pixar isn't struggling because it forgot how to animate. It's struggling because it forgot how to risk telling the truth.